Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley here from sprinkledwithglitter.com. Welcome to my craft room and thanks for joining me today. Today I'm sharing a little bit different video. I'm sharing my video and live streaming setup. It is a question that I get very often, and just for reference, I will have links for everything down in the YouTube description. So if you're looking for something that I'm talking about, be sure to check there. Now, one of my most common questions is, can we see your setup? And I am going to show it to you, but keep in mind that I have designed a setup that works for me, and this exact setup may not work in your craft space, but I hope this kind of gets you along the right road for discovering the setup that works for you. I have two cameras in my setup. I also use a MacBook Pro and some additional key lights here. And I'm going to talk you through all of the equipment today and show you how it's all connected to make it work. Because when I was kind of going through this process, I couldn't find exact information, and I was putting bits and pieces of it together to create this system. So hopefully if you're a crafter or someone who needs a similar setup here on YouTube, this may help you kind of get down the right path to designing a setup that works for you. Now, my setup involves two cameras. The camera that is front facing that I'm looking at you through right now is a Canon M50 Mark II, and the Mark II is really important. I did have the Mark I before this, and I was finding that it kind of had a timeout feature that didn't allow it to stay on while I was live streaming. So I'd have to reach up and touch it every so often to make sure that it stayed awake. It also has a clean output, so that's really important when you're looking for cameras. But keep in mind, you may be able to achieve this same kind of effect with an iPhone or something that you already have in your stash. Now I have a Sigma, it's a Sigma 16mm lens on this. It's a fixed focal length lens, and I chose that because my friend Kathy Zilski told me I should get it. Actually, it is what allows me to kind of get this blurred out background on my front facing cam, but keep in mind you cannot zoom it in or zoom it out. So it is fixed where it is. The only way I can actually get a closer shot of myself is physically moving the camera forward, or if I need it to kind of zoom out, I would have to physically move the camera backwards. Now this camera is suspended from my ceiling. My overhead camera is suspended from my ceiling as well, and I will have the hardware that I use linked in the YouTube description below to show you how I've suspended these items from my ceiling. I prefer a clean work surface whenever possible, and so keeping tripods off of my surface is important for me so that I have all of that area to work with. But there are tripods available, which I have used in the past, that have kind of like a 90-degree downward angle that you could use for your overhead shot, and you could use a standard tripod or even like a ring light type situation for your front-facing cam. So now that I've talked about my front-facing cam and why I chose what I chose, I'm going to flip you over to my overhead cam so that you can see what I'm talking about. This camera is mounted to my ceiling as well. It is suspended over my work surface, and I have had this camera for years. I mean, it is so old. It is a Canon Vixia HF-G30. This particular camera is no longer available. They have since upgraded it and made it 4K. I haven't found the need to replace this camera, and so I've been using this for several years now. Now, the thing that I like about this camera and the thing that has kept me from upgrading is it does have a wireless remote. Some of the newer models you can get a remote for, but it has to actually plug into the camera. And so I just felt like the HD that I was getting from this camera is enough. I can zoom in and zoom out with my remote, and it gives me good quality. Now, when I'm live streaming, I will run both of these cameras through a program that's called Ecamm Live. But if I'm just filming a video tutorial in my craft room that I am going to later voice over, I record directly to the SD card on this overhead cam and then put all of my clips together in Final Cut Pro to kind of edit the video, and then I'll go back and voice over. If I want to film a kind of real-time video tutorial in my craft room, I'll often use both of the cameras like I'm doing now, and then edit that together as well. but this is mainly for my live stream setup where I will use all of the cameras and all of the lights and those sorts of things. Now, I do have a couple of key lights. These are the Elgato key lights here behind me that kind of put some light on my work surface as well as my face as I'm sitting here. I use these no matter when I am recording, and I use all the lights in my craft room as well, just the overhead lights. I added these lights recently because I was finding that I was getting a lot of shadow from my body over the work surface, and so I added a little more light coming from the front to kind of eliminate that shadow. The thing that I like about these Elgato key lights is that they're very thin. I have them suspended from that pole that is actually holding this front-facing camera up. It's kind of maybe not the most recommended setup, but it's what I have. And I have them plugged into the outlets that I had installed in the ceiling. I do have 2 outlets in my ceiling, one on this side of my craft table and one on the opposite side of my craft table, which allows me to keep all of the cords kind of up and out of my way. Now, the thing that I like about the Elgato key lights is that I can control them from an app on my phone, which allows me to control the brightness as well as the white balance, and it allows me to turn them on and off so I don't have to fiddle with the lights themselves. For my microphone, I use the Rode Wireless Go 2, and you can see I'm actually wearing it here today with a lavalier mic plugged into it. I have a black one and a white one. I have the 2 mic system because oftentimes I will go live with Mr. Glitter if you've been here before. But I use this, I found it just easy to use. It's kind of plug and play. One of the things I really like about the Rode Wireless Go 2 mic is I can use an adapter and plug it into my iPhone and use it as a microphone on my iPhone as well, which I think will come in handy when I start making some more laser machine content later this year. Now, one of my biggest obstacles when kind of configuring my setup was my computer did not have powered USB ports that would allow me to run multiple cameras at once. So USB ports, and this is a very simple explanation, and I'm not claiming to be an expert on this, but this is my understanding. USB ports only on your computer only have so much power, and to run a couple of different cameras through a couple of camera capture cards, which I am using the Elgato Cam links for my setup, running those 2 cam links through the USBs that are on my laptop, there just wasn't enough power to power those cameras. So this is where the CalDigit TS3 Plus Thunderbolt Edition comes in. This is a powered port that allows me to plug in my cameras and my microphone all into this one port. So all of these cords, HDMIs and the cam links and the microphone all go into this CalDigit TS3 Plus, and that is plugged into the wall. It gives these all power. So once I have all of these plugged into this CalDigit powered unit, I run a USB-C cord from that unit to my laptop, and that creates a plug and play situation for me. So anytime I want to go live, I grab my laptop, I plug in one cord, and it connects all of my cameras and my microphone to my laptop. Now, in order to keep all of my wiring kind of hidden and more concealed, I have actually kind of drilled a hole in my ceiling and ran my HDMI cords across the ceiling and down the wall that sits next to me here. And those HDMIs come out of the wall and then plug into my CalDigit TS3 in order to kind of keep everything tidy. So I have had some extra work done. I had to have a handyman come in and just kind of drill some holes and get those run down the wall for me. In addition, I also have a monitor stand over here where all of my equipment can be hidden. I don't like to see all of this equipment and all of these cords out. I like to try to keep this area as tidy as possible so that my room stays inspiring. So I'll give you a look at that and you can see how I've managed to conceal all of these items. Now, I know the next question is going to be, what kind of laptop do you use? I use a MacBook Pro. It's an M1 chip. It's from 2020, so it's a little bit older, but it seems to be working just great. I do upgrade the memory on all of my laptops that I purchased to the max available, so it's the max available memory that was available at that time. And I have had no problem running this setup. Now, keep in mind that the Ecamm Live software that I use to kind of produce the show, to switch between cameras and that sort of thing, it is only available for an Apple or an iOS device. You cannot run it on a PC. So let's talk about Ecamm Live and what it allows me to do. Ecamm Live is a software that kind of grabs all the input from all of my cameras, brings it into one place, and allows me to switch between cameras during a live stream or during a recording. It allows me to adjust camera levels, lighting, brightness, contrast, color, etc. through the actual software. It allows me to add sound effects. It allows me to create different scenes like this picture-in-picture here, or this side-by-side. There's even a countdown that I use for my lives. So it allows me to do all of these things and then quickly produce a show while I'm live. I use a little mini stream deck off to my side that I have my different scenes programmed into, and that allows me to switch between all of my different scenes easily while I am live. I can even mute and end the stream while I am live streaming on YouTube or recording through Ecamm. Ecamm Live is a subscription-based software. I pay for it yearly, and you can either get a lower level subscription, which has certain features, or the pro level subscription, which offers additional features. So you'll have to just look at the features of those and decide what's right for you. Now, as far as hardware goes, I do want to talk to you about a couple of things, because these were the things that were hard for me to kind of fumble my way through online. I do have some baby pin mounts in my ceiling, which hold these kind of extension rods that are holding both of my cameras. There are some adapters that are needed in order to attach the extension pole to the baby pin that's in the ceiling, and I have those linked in the YouTube description below. They're called kind of quick adapters or quick mounts, I believe, and they're just little pieces that are going to allow you to connect that tripod rod to the mount in your ceiling and keep everything kind of mounted and clean and ready to go. Now, when I added my face cam, I was looking for a little more simplified version without a baby pin. I did find a mount that you can mount directly to your ceiling with an extendable arm. It will require a nut and kind of a little piece to connect all of those together. I have them linked below. And then that connects to a mini friction arm. So I have quite a few pieces put together to create this more simplified version. It does give me a little bit less sturdy mount than my overhead. If you want something that's really secure, I would go with the Manfrotto friction arm and the baby pin mount. But if you're looking for something that's just a face cam that's not going to get a lot of jolting and you can kind of leave in a stationary place, then that extending arm may be the way to go for you. And I'll make sure that I kind of differentiate those two different options in the supply list below. Now, when you're connecting your cameras via HDMI through your system, you are going to need a capture card. And I use the Elgato Cam Links. I've used these for years when I was running just a one camera setup with kind of my webcam as my front-facing cam, which is another option for you. But you will need those capture cards in order to convert that feed into something that your computer can use. So make sure that you pick up one for every one of your cameras. Now, I have run an additional camera on this setup. I have set up an iPhone 14 Pro and plugged it in via USB-C, and my Ecamm Live was able to capture that camera, and I'm able to add a third camera if needed to this live streaming setup. But that is my setup that I use all the time. It's plug and play, it's ready to go. I simply plug in one cable to my laptop, and then I hit the go live button in my Ecamm Live software to go live, and it pushes it out to YouTube. You're also able to push it out to other platforms as well. Now, as I mentioned before, I am not an expert on this. I'm just a crafter here on YouTube that had to fumble her way through a setup that would work for her, and this is what I found works for me. So I wanted to share it with all you out there. Maybe there's some information in here that you found helpful. If you did, be sure to hit the thumbs up button on this, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications here on my YouTube channel so you don't miss any of my paper crafting, card making, and live stream video tutorials. Thanks for joining me today. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments below or let me know if this video was helpful for you. I love to read your comments. And as I mentioned before, I will have all of the featured products mentioned in this video in that YouTube description, so you can find links to everything there. Thanks for joining me here in my craft room. I hope to see you again here soon. And until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.